Okay, so what we're going to do is play around with, let's see, so there's nothing else we're going to do with this. Advanced effects, effect surfaces. You can adjust that contrast if you want. For now, let's just leave it. Let's leave it there. Actually, let's try something. This this can allow us to have more of an ambient only look. Let's give that a try and see how that works for our character. Considering everything else is already lighting him up, now we're gonna try. We're gonna do it in the dark. Let's zoom out. I'm gonna select this light and go to the general parameters, and I'm gonna turn it off. And if you're ever working with lighting and you want to turn them off here. Don't delete them, because you can just come back and turn them on later. All right, I'm gonna render him out now and see. It is lighting him up enough that may be all I need for that. Okay, so you can do ambient only. Let's turn that off and do diffuse and diffuse. Let's turn off specular. It always ends up creating highlights, extra highlights I don't need. Okay, either one of those. So when you're doing this, when your character moves, okay, so I've only, under advanced effects, I'm only using the diffuse light. I'm not using specular. And the specular just ends up creating, when you have a light that close to somebody, it just ends up creating these overly bright light highlights that you don't want. So you can turn that off. Okay, and that's it. Now we can leave that off. Now I'm going to go back to my light, turn it back on, in this light, and turn it back on. And render out my scene. And it matches, in my opinion, it matches where we are with the time of the day, with the lighting we want. The character is very clearly the focal point, works very well. And we're going to talk more about this, but I want to go back to my lava. And oops, I'm going to move the map to soft illumination. It's okay. And hundreds. Let's try that. See if that doesn't help make the lava a little brighter. There we go. And that fixed that problem. And so what ends up happening is your lighting and your materials end up working together, and it becomes a, let's tweak this a little bit, tweak that a little bit, back and forth until you get really good at it. And in the beginning, you're gonna like try some stuff and be completely confused about why it's doing that. But as you work with it more, the experience of working with it and trying different things, it actually will build in your brain until you get comfortable with it and you begin to know, hey, I need to adjust this, I need to adjust that, and back and forth. And we're going to talk more about materials. We have an entire class that we're going to do on lighting and materials next semester. For now, this is just enough to cover what we need to cover for the basics for this class. I know everybody wants to create really high-end animations, but it takes time to get comfortable and learn the material, and you want to stay at the basic level in the beginning. Otherwise, you will frustrate and overwhelm yourself. You'll end up setting deadlines for yourself that are not meetable, and then you'll spend all this time doing something, and then you'll have no time for anything else. So for this class, you want to keep everything basic. I'm only showing you the basics so that you can get comfortable with them and start working with them effectively, and then we'll start taking it to the next level and the next. It takes a full year of these courses before you understand all the basics, and then you can start really experimenting and being creative. Okay, so just hang in there. You'll get to the point where you'll get comfortable with it, and then you can start branching out from there. Okay, so those are the basics for lighting for this course that I want you guys to stick with for now. You can use your key light, your secondary light, and if needed, you can use an omni that you link to your character so that no matter what he does or where he goes, he stays illuminated. You could, if you needed, do a backlight. If you have a really dark background and your character is dark and you want them to have contrast, use an omni but move it to the back. Move your omni back here. Do this kind of backlighting where your omni is linked to your character, and that will help create that definition between a dark background and a dark character, and so that the character is backlit. Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about are cameras. And if we go to our Create tab and go to the Camera tab, you're going to see we have standard cameras, so you want to stick with those. Arnold is something else. We'll talk about that next semester. And you want to use a targeted camera. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. And the camera gets put in exactly like the lights. You click, hold, and drag and create the camera. And of course it puts it on the ground too. The camera's in the lava. So it can move individually and the target can move individually, or you can select both and move them together. Let's get it out of the, oops, there we go. Okay, so we've got it out of the lava, and there, oops, there's the camera right there. You can see this in the scene. Here's my camera, here's my key light, there's my secondary light, and there's my omni that's lighting up my character. Now, for right now, we're in the perspective view, but we want to be able to see through the lens of the camera. So let's talk about the camera. Go to my Modify tab. With your camera, you can control the parameters of your camera exactly like a DSLR. You have a lens, and the default lens for some reason is 43.456. It has stock lenses. The first row are for landscape. The second row, well, still kind of landscapey, but the second row are for portraiture, and the third row are for zoom lenses. And you can toggle between, instead you can either type in an exact lens, or you can just pick one of these. I'm going to start with 24 millimeter. And you see what happens when I pick one? The field of view for the camera gets wider on the, that's the widest lens. On the 15 millimeter, it's as wide as it can go. On the 200, see how it narrows down? And now you're zooming in. So I'm going to pick 24, let's type 28. And I could, just because I can see where that rectangle is in reference to my, let's pull it up. Oops, I want to pick the whole thing up, not just that. Where it is in reference to my scene. And then my target, I'm going to place my target lower, like so that there we go, so that it's going to follow my character. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is come into your perspective view and click on the word perspective. Cameras, camera 001. And that's how we select and see through the camera. And so now I can see through my camera. Let's render that out. Okay, there we go. I can see through that. Now, you see what's kind of happening here with that lens? It's stretching the lava. It's weird. There's a distortion in those landscape lenses. So I'm going to select it, and let's go with 35. Yeah, that's better. And I want to pull it down a little bit. I want to be closer to the lava. And as I move the camera, you can see it in my view now. Ooh, yeah, that's good. And then my target back here. That looks pretty good. I still want to go a little bit closer. Pick the camera. 50's too much, so let's just do this. Let's do 40. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, one other thing we can look at here on our camera. We'll talk about this. This is all advanced stuff. We'll talk about this later. Can leave all this alone for now. Okay, we're going to just leave everything as it is for now. Yeah, it's all advanced stuff. Okay, so for now we're just going to leave it at that and let the field of view be the field of view. Except one thing. So let me just show. Oh, and just so you know, a free camera has no target. Okay, that'll work. Okay, and so now we've got this set up, and when I render this out, as you saw, I have, oops, wrong set. I have my scene. Now, if I move my camera, say I'm going to move it this side, and I render this out. There we go. We're back to what we had before in our perspective. Okay, and so those are the basics. That's the starting point for what we're going to do with this. And because your assignment says to turn in an animation for your scene that you're going to set up, we're going to talk about the animation basics, and then we're going to come back to how to animate your camera. Okay, see you in the next video.